Good day everyone. Today we're going to tackle about some kind of development. And this development is entitled psychosocial development. So, what is psychosocial development? Okay. Psychosocial development describes how a person's personality develops and how social skills are learned from infancy through adulthood. So, okay, psychosocial development theory is an expansion of Sigmund Freud's original five stages of development. Erikson, a 20th century psychologist and psychoanalyst, formulated the eight-stage life cycle theory in 1959 in the supposition that the environment plays a critical role in self-awareness, adjustment, human development, and identity. Psychosocial development involves changes not only in children's overall behavior, but also in their social cognition. For example, they become able to take the perspective of others and to understand that other people's behavior is based on their knowledge and desires. Erik Erikson's psychosocial development theory proposes that our personality develops through eight stages, from infancy to old age. He argued that social experience was valuable throughout life, with each stage recognizable by the specific conflict we encounter between our psychological needs and the surrounding social environment. To become fully functional, confident members of society, we must successfully complete each stage and resolve two conflicting states. For example, those of trust versus mistrust and autonomy versus shame. When successful, we acquire basic human virtues and a healthy personality. We become well adjusted and better prepared for challenges later in life. Failure, on the other hand, leads to difficulty navigating our future and a profound impact on our sense of self, our personality. We are left feeling inadequate. Erickson believed that we are aware of what motivates us through life and that ego has greater importance in guiding our actions than does the ego. We make conscious choices in life, and these choices focus on meeting certain social and cultural needs rather than purely biological ones. Humans are motivated, for instance, by the need to feel that the world is a trustworthy place, that we are capable individuals, that we can make a contribution to society, and that we have lived a meaningful life. These are all psychosocial problems. Erickson's theory is based on what he calls the epigenetic principle, encompassing the notion that we develop through an unfolding of our personality in predetermined stages, and that our environment and surrounding culture influence how we progress through these changes. This biological unfolding in relation to our socio-cultural settings is done in stages of psychosocial development, where progress through each stage is in part determined by our success or lack of success in all the previous stages. Erickson described eight stages, each with a major psychosocial task to accomplish or crisis to overcome. Erickson believed that our personality continues to take shape throughout our lifespan as we face these challenges. We will discuss each of these stages in greater detail when we discuss each of these life stages throughout the course. And this will be demonstrated by the next reporter.
Hey everyone, my name is Cecilia Cipocalo, and now let's move on to the 8 stages of psychosocial development. The stage 1 is the trust versus mistrust. It begins at birth and lasts until around 18 months of ages. During this stage, the infant is completely dependent on their caregiver to meet their needs. With consistent care, the infant learns to trust and feel secure. The virtue gained in this is hope. Success in stage 1 helps a person be able to trust others and their future relationships, as well as trust in their own ability to deal with challenging situations later in life. The trust versus mistrust stage is the first stage of Erik Erikson's psychosocial development theory. It occurs during infancy, typically from birth to around 18 months of age. In this stage, infants develop a sense of trust or mistrust to get towards their caregivers and the world around them. During this stage, infants rely on their caregivers to meet their basic needs, such as feeding, changing, and providing comfort. If their caregivers consistently and responsively meet their needs, infants develop a sense of trust and feel secure in their environment. They learn to trust that their needs will be met and develop a positive outlook on the world. On the other hand, if their caregivers are neglectful, inconsistent, or unresponsive to their needs, infants may develop a sense of mistrust. They may feel anxious, fearful, and are uncertain about the world. This can be led to lack of confidence and negative view of others. The trust versus mistrust stage is crucial for establishing a foundation of trust and security in early life. It sets a stage for future stages of psychosocial development, influencing how individuals form relationships and view the world as they grow older. And now let's move on to the stage 2 of psychosocial development. The stage 2 is the autonomy versus shame. It occurs from 18 months to around 3 years of age. During this stage, children's physical skills grow while they explore their environment and learn to be more independent. The virtue gained in this stage is will. If the child is overly characterized or lives a controlling environment, they can feel shame and doubt their abilities to take care of themselves. So, it is the stage 2 of the psychosocial development of Erik Erikson. So, it occurs during early childhood, roughly between 18 months to 3 years of age. In this stage, the children develop a sense of independence and autonomy as they explore their environment and assert their will. They begin to develop basic skills and learn to do things for themselves, such as feeding, dressing, and toileting. If children are encouraged and supported in their efforts to achieve autonomy, they develop a sense of confidence and self-control. However, if they experience excessive criticism or over-control from caregivers, they may develop a sense of shame and doubt in their abilities. This can hinder their development of independence and lead to feelings of inadequacy. In summary, the autonomy versus shame stage is a crucial period in early childhood where children strive to become more independent, but their experiences with their caregivers can influence whether they develop a sense of autonomy or a shame. And let's proceed to the stage 3, the initiative versus guilt. It occurs during early school age years of a child's life. The child is overly controlled or made to feel that their questions are annoying. The child can develop feeling guilt. The virtue is a sense of purpose. So, the initiative versus guilt is the third stage of psychosocial development by Erikson. So, it is typically occurs during early childhood between the ages of 3 to 6 years old. In this stage, the children begin to assert their independence and take on more responsibility for their actions. They develop a sense of initiative and explore their environment through playing and social interactions. They start to engage in imaginative play, ask questions, and show curiosity about the world around them. They also start to develop a sense of purpose and set goals for themselves. However, during this stage, children may also experience feeling of guilt if they perceive their actions as being wrong or harmful. They may feel guilty for exploring their independence or for not meeting their own or others' expectations. Guilt can arise from internalizing societal rules and norms or from experiencing disapproval or criticism from caregivers. The successful resolution of this stage involves finding a balance between initiative and guilt. Children needs to be encouraged in their exploration and supported in their efforts, while also learning about responsibility and the consequences of their actions, of course. By navigating this stage successfully, children can develop a sense of purpose, competence, and the ability to initiate and complete tasks.
Versus inferiority. Stage 4 of Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, it is typically occurs between the ages of 5 and 12 years old. The psychosocial crisis in this stage is industry versus inferiority. So during this stage, a child is learning how to write and read. Children in this stage also put a higher amount of importance on what their peers think about them. And they are starting to take pride in their accomplishments. So, the virtue gained when a child is successful in stage 4 is competence. When we say competence, it is the quality of being adequately or well qualified physically and intellectually. If a child responds negatively to this psychosocial crisis, it can lead to feelings of inferiority and low self-esteem. Now, let's proceed to stage 5, which is identity versus confusion. Stage 5 occurs during the teenage years, between the ages of 12 to 18 years old. At this stage, a psychosocial crisis is the identity versus confusion. So during this stage, teens are trying to find themselves and are searching for sense of identity. So the virtue that can be gained in this stage is fidelity or faithfulness. So when we say fidelity, it is the faithfulness to a person, cause, or belief demonstrated by continuing loyalty and support. In stage 5, teens also learn how to accept other people who are different than themselves. According to Erikson, if a person responds negatively to the crisis in stage 5, it can lead to the role of confusion, uncertainty about themselves, and how they fit in the society. So, let's proceed on the stage 6, which is intimacy versus isolation. The psychosocial crisis in stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation. It occurs in young adulthood, ages 18 to 40 years old. The main focus in this stage is developing intimate relationships, and the virtue to be gained is love. So when we say love, it encompasses a range of strong and positive emotional and mental states, from the most sublime virtue or good habit, the deepest interpersonal affection, to the simplest pleasure. So people who are not successful in stage 6 can feel alone and isolated. In some cases, this can lead to depression.
Hello everyone, I am Genevieve Ambasan, and for now I'm going to report my task about the 7 and 8 stage of psychosocial development of Erik Erikson, which is the generativity versus stagnation, and as well as the ego integrity versus despair. Erikson's 7th level of psychosocial development occurs during middle age, between 40 to 65 years of age. The crisis at this stage is generativity versus stagnation. And generativity is a person's way of leaving a mark on the world by giving back to society. This can include mentoring the younger generation, being successful at work, and positively impacting the community. Generativity, which is concerned with establishing and guiding the next generation, includes the procreation of children, the production of work, and the creation of new things and ideas that contribute to the building of a better world. And generativity versus stagnation, people have a need not only to learn but also to instruct, which often extend beyond one's own children to an altruistic concern for other young people. Generativity is said to grow out of early years and tone qualities such as intimacy and identity. As noted earlier, that intimacy calls for the ability to one's ego to another person without fear or losing it. So this unity of ego identities leads to a gradual expansion of interest. And in the stage of generativity versus stagnation, one-to-one intimacy is no longer enough and children become part of one's concern. Instructing others in the ways of culture is a practice found in all societies, and especially for newly the mature adult. This motivation is not merely an obligation or a selfish need, but an evolutionary drive to make a contribution to succeeding generation and to ensure that continuity of human society as well. So the final stage in Erikson's psychosocial theory of development is integrity versus despair. This stage begins around age 65 years and continues for the remainder of a person's life. During this stage, a person reflects on their life and their accomplishment and comes to terms with the fact that death is unavoidable. So integrity versus despair involve a retrospective look back in life and either feeling satisfied that life was well lived or regretting choices and missed opportunities. In order to understand this stage, it is important to first understand what Erikson meant by integrity and despair. Integrity, also known as ego integrity, refers to a person's ability to look back on their life with a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment. While on the other hand, despair, according to Erikson, refers to looking back on life with feelings of regret, shame, or disappointment. The integrity versus despair stage begins as the aging adult begins to tackle the problem of his or her mortality. The onset of this stage is often triggered by life events such as retirement, the loss of a spouse, the loss of friends and acquaintances, facing a terminal illness, and other changes to major roles in life. During the integrity versus despair stage, people reflect back on life they have lived and come away with either a sense of fulfillment from a life well lived or a sense of regret and despair over a life misspent.